Boy, Christmas brought so much joy. Couldn't wait for the presents and laughter. I couldn't sleep late at night, looking for Santa with lights. Those are the memories I still remember. Then I became a man, lost sight of who I am, but right in front of me was the answer. 'Cause on Christmas I feel joy, and I turn back to a boy. The answer is to stay young forever. This is not a Christmas, this is not a Christmas song. This is not a Christmas, this is not a Christmas song. This is not a Christmas, this is not a Christmas song. This is not a Christmas, this is not a Christmas song.
Ho, ho, ho.
When I
Hello, Star Wars fans. You know, there are just 272 days until Christmas 2023, and it's going to be an interesting show today, my friends. Because I've got two friends. You guys that missed the pre-show, you didn't hear the fun that Jason and Meg and I were having.
Hey. Sorry, I was about to end it because Meg was playing the Friends theme song on the acoustic guitar.
Meg,
I mean,
killed it.
it's good. It's a good song.
It's a good song. Yeah. I don't see what your problem is, Jason.
I wanted to do that moment from Animal House, but she's in a whole different country, so I couldn't just grab it and smash it. You know, the Belushi moment with the acoustic.
I'm pretty sure I caught you saying that if a song could be made into an acoustic and done well, then it's a good song. And so Meg did it. That makes it a good song.
No, not just played well, but you know, it's a good song. Like nothing's gonna, you know, I could. You just can't do that. That's
Well, you know,
illegal.
Jason, there's a song you can't turn acoustic, and that is Wet Ass P Word.
Challenging me, Senator?
I'm challenging you.
Oh,
I mean,
my goodness.
even Sir Mix-a-Lot can be turned acoustic.
Because I'll do Wet Ass Padme. I'm not scared. I'll do it. Just give me a challenge. One more step now.
I've been having so much fun in the pre-show, getting to hang out with my friends and just have fun. It was a great. So I appreciate that, you guys. It was a lot of fun. We do have a lot of Star Wars news to talk about, though.
What?
And the preview for the 3 episodes that are coming out tonight. 2 for the Bad Batch, of course, the finale, and the Mandalorian.
I forgot about that we get Dos.
Yeah,
That's cool.
The finale, and we get to go wade into the second half of the season of Mandalorian season 3, and there's some things to talk about with that as well. Because if you follow all the news and rumors and speculation, there's a lot that needs to happen in these last 4 episodes, and I don't know. It seems it's going to be an interesting ride. Let's just say it that way.
I just wrote a Mike Porter dad joke. What did Ahsoka's butt feel like when Bo-Katan slapped it?
Oh no,
Mythosaur. Come on, Porter.
Can you explain that for those of us who watch Friends?
Yeah, so it's like this really bad theme song plays, and then like Joey comes in and he's dressed like he knows who the Jesus Lizard is, but he's been listening to Michael Jackson his whole life. That's a lie. A total lie.
I can't take it.
Yeah, it was a
you guys
lie.
are killing me today. Oh my goodness.
I like Seinfeld. That was a good show.
I need
Muffin Tops.
I need more
should just-
sleep.
And
or
you know what,
something.
Jason? If Bo-Katan and Ahsoka meet up again in the Ahsoka show, I think they should do the slap in live action.
Yeah.
It's not appropriate anymore because they're both adults.
I'm gonna say a slap and a rub. I'm just gonna throw it out there.
I've always said the best Star Wars ship is Bo-Katan.
Mm. That's fair. I don't have one, so I'll after what I've given you today, I'll give you that one too. I might as well. I let her like friends because it makes her happy. See,
I have an idea for you, Jason. It's
Oh,
April
no.
Fool's coming up. Can you make an April Fool's article about that?
yes,
Oh,
yeah, I can do it.
brilliant.
I really want to
Absolutely
cover it.
Yeah, I'll do it.
Absolutely
I'll put it on
brilliant.
March. I'll do it. What's today? Today is the 28th. Yeah, I'll do it. It's on.
Bonus points if you get a Friends reference in there, and extra bonus points if you get a Phil Collins in there as well.
Oh, okay.
As
I can do that.
Bo-Katan grabs Ahsoka, you can say she felt it in the air that night.
That's what I was. She felt it coming in the air tonight. Actually, is the
Yeah,
exact
that's the
line.
one.
So, like, think of how disgusting that is. Imagine Phil Collins coming in the air. No, gross.
You guys, I can't take
I
it.
find him disgusting. But we did say Peter Gabriel. He's cool. He didn't start the fire, right? He didn't do it.
No.
I'm not going to lie to
It
you, Jason. I'm pretty dirty-minded, but I've never thought of the Phil Collins song as meaning that.
Yeah, that's all I could hear when I hear it. It's that disgusting man. And like, remember in the 80s when they would always hit the snare drum with water on it to make it splash? Well, I see his dumbass playing drums, and I think of that, and I just think of that, and I don't want it. I don't want any of it.
Well, Meg, hopefully by the end of today's show, you'll be in a better mood too. We were talking how spicy Meg was being this morning in Discord, and boy, what a show! What a show we have for you today. Let's
Meg denied Mando hooking up with Crazy, and I'm like, oh yeah, he hooked up with Crazy. I say for
I
sure.
didn't deny it. I just think it was a bad idea.
Yeah, but he kept his helmet on, which is like Smoking the Bandit when he keeps his hat on, and I kind of respected that. Well, he takes his hat off for one thing, but he sometimes leaves the hat on too. So whatever.
let's transition to some stories if we could,
Okay.
please.
Yeah.
There was an article made its way around, but this Jason's taught me one thing. He's taught me go to the source, right? So the article that's making its way around is like from comicbook.com, but they cite Collider. So what did I do? I went to Collider.
Follow the money, aka follow the links.
Well, you kind of stay away from misinterpretations that way. Not that comicbook.com does that. I'm just saying there are lots of places that do. And our friend Bespin Bulletin has shown just in his own stats how skewed that can become, right? Millions of hits, but only like 10,000 views.
Millions of views on a tweet for a tweet that he had with like 10,000 views on the article.
On the actual article. So people
like their headlines. People like their headlines, but they don't like to read.
Right. 100%.
Bunch of TikToks out there. That's what I call them. Bunch of TikToks.
You know how clickbaity titles, article titles can get, which then leads us into misinterpretation of what the actual story is. So here we are, Collider. They were saying Jodie Turner-Smith reveals new details about her Star Wars role in The Acolyte. And I thought there was a couple of really interesting things in here, talking about just the quality of the sets. She was saying, whoa, this is a little different experience than she's had in the past. They've got some money over there at Lucasfilm and Disney. And right here it says, obviously subject matter is different. It's different when everything you're doing is lighthearted. And that's not what I was doing for Star Wars. I was working with my favorite director I've worked with so far, Kogonada. I don't know who that is. But under the leadership of Leslie Headland, it's incredible to see. I can't wait to see how the show turns out. And then she talks about, did they pull that other one out? No, they didn't. Where is it?
Do you think Bob Iger was whispering in her ear during the interview, like, tell them we have money. Tell them the sets are good. This isn't going to be Kenobi. This is going to be, but
tell them we feed you. We have food, water, supplies. And unlike what that one guy said, we are better than Korean productions. Say that too.
Well,
Remember, that was like the last thing we heard.
Oh,
It's not as good
yeah.
as the Korean productions. It's kind of like, I was like, he's probably right.
Lee Jung-jae said that, didn't he?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm also reminded that the series is described as a mystery thriller. One of my favorite genres. My wife and I love to watch those. We just watched a series on Netflix called the Night Watch or something like that. It's a FBI Secret Service kind of situation, and it's a mystery thriller. And you find out at the end who was really pulling the strings and setting things up. I think this could be very exciting if they pull it off well. And so far, it looks like they're kind of taking the turn on it that seems more serious, seems more heavy, and that's what she's saying, right? It's a lot of fun to work on lighthearted things, but that's not what we're doing here. It's they're taking the work seriously, and the tone is quite different from other projects she went on. And where is it? She didn't get an act with Amanda Stenberg, and Amanda is our series lead. So not quite sure what that means when she's not going to be acting, or she's not in any scenes with her as far as like when they were recording it. Doesn't mean they won't be in the same
what
shot.
It means is she doesn't know how much information we glean from everything that she says, and that she got a call from Lucasfilm saying you need to kind of zip it. Right?
So she didn't have any scenes with her. But we also saw that in the Mandalorian season 2 that Katie Sackhoff didn't have any scenes with Luke Skywalker. Yet there they are.
Well, yeah, they're not going to do that like that. But what it would more be like would be Andor, when like the villains literally never have any scenes with Andor himself. Like they went through that whole season without ever working with Cassian. So that's probably, because they're not playing a trick on her. Like, oh, you thought you were working with Plo Koon, but guess what? It's Amanda Stenberg. but it is probably more like the other side of things, because like we saw that in those leaked photos. Was she in those leaked photos? I can't remember now. There was someone who looked like they were some kind of dignitary or queen, a piece of royalty, and then had a bunch of bodyguards who were like had like bows and arrows and stuff. So it's like there's a lot going on in those pictures when you look at them.
Yeah, because she said she didn't get to use a lightsaber, but I did, and then she cut herself off. She could have said use a bow and arrow or something like that, right?
Yeah.
But then she stopped herself. Said, "Well, not get to use a lightsaber, right? Because she's not a Jedi. It's not that only Jedi get to use lightsabers, but she doesn't get to use a lightsaber. She's using something else, perhaps a bow and arrow,
nunchucks,
which I saw. At least when those scenes first came out, there was some grousing and complaining. Oh, bows and arrows in Star Wars, rah! And it's not like Star Wars, like
really.
Except that's what the Ewoks use. So.
Well, the Ewoks used them, and so did the Night Sisters, which they're all like, "Oh my god, the Night Sisters are coming into the Ahsoka series!" It's like, what do you think they're going to be using? Nunchucks?
I'm just like, I mean, bows and arrows go back to George Lucas. So, what are you complaining about? I mean,
yeah,
that's the original trilogy stuff. Calm yourself down.
Stick to the big stuff, the bait and switch. Come on, not the nunchucks, not weapons. Weapons are fun, right?
Sure. So anyway, that was some of the information we have about the Acolyte. It looks like it's going to be a well-funded, well-produced series, and I'm personally looking very forward to it. And you know what? It's contrary to some reports, it's still on the schedule for 2024.
Doubt it. doubt it even exists. I think this is all just trying to save face. They're not even filming anything right now. I got the inside scoop on YouTube.com.
I mean, Bespin Bulletin went out to the actual set. Was actually,
Faker.
There.
Faker.
But other
He's a
than
fake.
that,
He's playing Fortnite. He didn't go anywhere. We made that up.
then this dude has written a couple articles that are quite interesting. When we
I almost got the font bigger, but then we had to start the show. I was this close. I was this close to getting it done before the show.
Bespin tell you his secrets.
Well,
secrets
no. But if you hold control and scroll your mouse wheel, if you have a mouse, the font will go bigger.
Oh, yeah. Again, you can also hit Control Plus on your keyboard, and it'll zoom in. Of course, you got to view Star Wars, making StarWars.net at like 250%, and then when you go to Bespin, you got to back it back off because it's
Wait, so
Santa, you forgot something big for the Acolyte.
What's
what was
that?
that?
There's going to be an intimacy coordinator.
Oh, geez.
No. Actually, you know what? No, we should hit on that really quickly, because the thing about it is people always think that an intimacy coordinator means that they're getting that they're knocking boots, but it doesn't necessarily mean that.
No.
It can go all the way down just to two actors not having like chemistry, or trying to make sure that if they do have chemistry, even if they do, like Hayden Christensen and Natalie Portman supposedly had chemistry in real life. And that's why they picked them. When they got together, they were awkward, and it didn't play. And then they had to because we're like, oh, that's teenage love, and everybody else was like, no, George, we don't agree. And but also those kind of things also protect people who are like, for instance, in Basic Instinct, that movie, they didn't have an intimacy coordinator, and they got a picture of her vagina that she didn't, or a film that she didn't even agree to it. They said that her underwear were getting in the way of the dress. And then also 5 years later, she loses her child because do you know that your mom was in this movie that we just told you about, and then what happened that we just told you about? And the kid's like,
But
yeah.
if you need someone,
so that's why
if you need someone to prevent a pussy from Star Wars, that's a problem.
Well, oh no.
Well, there's that, but you're touching base on something, Jason. It just simply can be said. It's to help with we have any kind of relationship going on screen, that it doesn't cross into any kind of legal area that could cause litigation down the road. So you end up with a Harrison Ford, making out with a 18-year-old, barely, not even, and something happens. Well, that might not be as acceptable in general society as maybe it was in 1970, 80.
Okay, so well, what it's really for is it's mostly in most productions is to.
Let's try again.
It mostly protects the actors themselves from being taken advantage of by directors, by crew, by however you want to put it, and people doing what they don't mean to do. So it's sort of like if you were to go and you were to film somebody in a way that they don't want to be filmed, the intimacy coordinators be like, nope. So it works as a helps people with their performance, and it helps protect the actual talent involved.
Yeah. So it's not just about say TVMA kind of content or rated R kind of content.
It could be anything.
Right. Yeah. And it's just to keep the old stories of the casting couch being a thing, or anything.
Oh no. That happens before they get to the intimacy coordinator. That hasn't changed.
True. But it's supposed to help with those kind of issues, right? It's supposed to help
with like the thing where you don't want your hoo-ha in the Acolyte, and then they say it's not, but it is. And then the intimacy coordinator is like, nope, I'm not going to let that happen.
But what about the Mandalorian? Why is there no intimacy coordinator for any other show?
I don't know. Well, I mean, number one, it would probably depend on what the production wants. So Jon Favreau and what they're doing, they're not putting anybody in scantily clad outfits. They're not doing any kind of sex scenes in the Mandalorian. I mean, we were like,
so there's going to be sex scenes in the Acolyte.
Doesn't mean that though. It doesn't mean that we haven't even seen people kiss in The Mandalorian. So why would you even need an intimacy coordinator if there hasn't even been a kiss? You know what I mean?
Who's to say there isn't?
Like Andor could have had one, but also Andor sort of skipped it and went right to the part where she's putting her underwear back on or something, and so they kind of like jumped that in that show. So it doesn't. I'm not saying that there will be or there won't be. It doesn't mean that. It doesn't. It may just simply mean that when these people hold hands, they don't seem like they're really into each other. It could literally mean that too. That's the point. Is it doesn't. We can't really glean anything from the hiring. We would have to know where was this person in specific moments, which we won't know.
And I think that's the thing is we got to get away from the idea that an intimacy coordinator means there's like intimacy. It just means like there's some sort of romantic or some sort of personal connection that they want to make sure doesn't go over a line when it comes to legal perspective.
Well, no, it can mean that too, but it could also mean like if me and Santa were in a movie and then like I had to put my arm around him, but I was really uncomfortable with it. It was because I would be like, dude, you seem like you're not like they would work out how for me to do it naturally. It could come down to
I'm trying to get away from the idea that it means somebody's having sex on scene.
Yeah, it doesn't have to mean that. It can. It usually does. But it doesn't have to mean that. And considering that it's Star Wars, I'm like, it's a hard read.
I know exactly what you're saying, and I understand that it doesn't necessarily mean sex or kissing, whatever. However, do you know what this gives me the vibe of? When I made a video back in 2021, when they said Joby Harold is writing the Kenobi show, and I expressed why I was worried about that, and then everyone was defending it, and lo and behold, I was right. The show suffered from tremendously bad writing. And I just feel like a lot of the Acolyte stuff recently has just given me a sign that this is not made by Star Wars fans. This is not made by people who know the franchise.
How do you get that?
And I think I'll be right about that.
But from all reports, Leslie Headland is like the biggest Star Wars nerd at Lucasfilm. She's completely.
I hope so.
She played the games when she was young. She did the board game. She's read the books. She's like a huge Star Wars sweaty.
Yeah, I say that as being irrelevant. Tony Gilroy couldn't give two flying F's about it, and he I think did the best Star Wars ever because the human story element was on. Yeah. That's like I think there's like two ways of going about it. Either you tell the good human story, which is what Gilroy did, or you get out the action figures and you tell I'm the super Star Wars fan and know that you want to see R5D4 with a Mandalorian and a Baby Yoda, like that kind of stuff. There's like these different like ways of I think of approaching it. So I in terms of Acolyte though, my misgivings about it right now so far have just been like when we saw the photos of the Jedi with the Wookiee and stuff. I thought that stuff looked like a bit sci-fi channel-y. And that's where my like reservations from it come in. And it might just be that like we're not supposed to really be seeing that like that. It might look good on screen. You know what I mean? There's all kinds of stuff. But you know, like Beth's been saying, Leslie Headland hired people who love Star Wars and people that don't care about it in her writer's room. And that's literally taking the Jon Favreau and the Gilroy approach and putting it together, because when you have somebody who doesn't know Star Wars, doesn't care about it, they could go, you know what? I don't care that you are freaking out that Yoda was in that scene. I don't care about Yoda, but what's going on in the scene that makes me excited. And that's the kind of stuff that I think gives things like longevity. But once again, I'm not saying you're wrong for your gut instinct or anything like that. I don't know what to expect.
And I disagree with Rick. I don't think there's a sex scene. I don't think there's any reason to believe that there is. And all you have to do is go back to the Rings of Power, Lord of the Rings. This whole thing came around with it as well. Like,
oh, really?
Like Lord of the Rings, we don't need sex scenes in Lord of the Rings. Why do they have an intimacy coordinator? And a great big kerfuffle came about. Well, I watched the Rings of Power, and I never once was like, "Ooh, that's spicy." There was a makeout scene like in one part, but it wasn't even that spicy. It wasn't like
well, and like in that moment right there, it was between a man and a woman.
Yeah.
So let's just say the man starts to get a boner. Right. That intimacy coordinator would be somebody who dealt with that issue and how they go about that, because otherwise
Wait, what? Are you saying that if he got a stiffy, she would take him round the back and then just
no, I'm not saying that. But I am saying like that if they would deal with how to make sure that the partner was comfortable, okay, and wasn't getting like that skit on SNL with the Greek guys who just like kind of like jab into people, they make sure that everything is just going where everybody's comfortable and good. So that job is so broad and so like sort of random in its different like duties that I just heard it and I'm just like, okay, so what? It doesn't mean it doesn't really mean anything. And then like
it is Star Wars though. My point is that it's Star Wars. I don't think the script needs any intimacy of any kind.
But see, if you went back,
that was my one complaint about Attack of the Clones.
What about Andor?
If you went
Andor
back
doesn't
now
have intimacy though.
You went back to the original trilogy now, there would be an intimacy coordinator for the Han and Leia and
no, it would be for Leia in the bikini sitting on the dais. That's where one would come in for that alone.
Well, I understand that, but also for the other scenes where they're making out. There's a couple of scenes where like she kisses her brother, right? Okay, you're gonna kiss Luke. We're gonna have an intimacy coordinator. You're gonna kiss Han, we're going to have an intimacy coordinator. You're going to wear this bikini, we're going to have an intimacy coordinator. There's lots of that. It doesn't have to go beyond that. So we've had places where in the past, the intimacy coordinator is a somewhat new role in Hollywood. And so there's a lot of misunderstanding over that word intimacy. And that means all of a sudden it's sex scenes. We don't need that in our Star Wars. Well, my friends, when you go back to the original trilogy, if it were in today's environment, there would have been 100% an intimacy coordinator on set for what we saw. So, put it in context. Hollywood's changing. These roles exist now for even those kinds of scenes. It doesn't have to be over sexualized.
I mean,
that there's anything.
Yoda's in his 50s at this point. He's still out there getting down. So don't take it off the table though, Santa.
I know, but it confuses things. It muddies it. Right? When you're talking about the other things, it muddies the waters. And what I'm trying to say is that it doesn't have to be any of that to require an intimacy coordinator today. And so what people do is they hear that and they immediately jump to the other end, which, yes, it is for that too. But it's not. It goes all the way back to, as Bestman said, we would have had one for the prequel trilogy as well.
Yeah, and I was talking to an agent like when this story broke. I was out somewhere and we were like, this came out and we were kind of talking about it, and he actually mentioned that a few of his clients actually just have it where that's even like a stipulation of their involvement in, and so because all of a sudden like you go into a movie and let's just say Meg is like, I don't do movies where I will not do it. So I have an intimacy coordinator. I'm not getting down with anybody on camera. Well, our script doesn't even have it. We don't even have that. But you know what? Sometimes they add it. Sometimes they throw that stuff in. Sometimes there will be stipulations like that. So it's like I said, this is really kind of, it's an issue that popped up. So it's worth discussing, but it's a non-story. It's a non-story until we have a scene that tells us something about why that would even be there.
I don't know, Jason. My gut instinct tells me.
Yeah.
I guess I'm in a more negative place with Star Wars at the moment than I was a year ago. So I'm naturally very skeptical towards these kind of things. I mean, I agree with you. I think, of course, consent is very important and making sure people are comfortable is so important. All I'm saying is like what Rick said, where there's smoke, there's fire. And I can't help but feel there is going to be some non-Star Warsy stuff.
It's Disney Plus. I don't think it's really going to get down.
I don't either. And we saw an intimacy coordinator for Rings of Power if you watched it, there was nothing that in that screamed out to me that, oh, we should have had an intimacy coordinator because that was spicy. Nothing at all.
Yeah.
But yet they had one. And understanding that it would have applied to the original trilogy, you would have 100% had one for the original trilogy. Then it's just that Hollywood's changing. This role does not, this job on a set doesn't mean that you're crossing a line. It doesn't mean that you're going into some sort of over-sexualized content. It doesn't mean that. It can mean that, but it doesn't necessarily mean that. And that's where I think people are like, they go into the whole HBO, Cinemax kind of things where it's like nudity and
Taco Taxi Cab Confessions.
We're not going to go there. That's not going to happen. It's just going to be there's some sort of romantic base, and it can be any range of things. Go all the way down to what we saw in the original trilogy. They would have had an intimacy coordinator for those movies if they were shot today. And that's all you need to understand. And you go back and you think, okay, was there anything in there that was jarring to me? No. All right. So calm down. that's a lot. All right.
Don't yell. Man, sound laying down on me.
I'm just saying. And it just confuses things when we start to talk about boners and all this other stuff. It doesn't have to be any of that.
I got Santa to say boners, you guys. I did it.
I just don't have the like Meg. Like Meg, I get tired of the fandom jumping into the deep water when there's nothing there. There's nothing there. So just chill, folks. Yeah. Well, it'll be okay. Calm down. If and when it does cross a line, we can talk about it then. But just because they have an intimacy coordinator does not mean at all that we're going to cross a line at all. So that's me.
That Wookiee get down.
Yes. Okay. Ahsoka. So in your article yesterday, there's some fascinating things in here. You guys should be following MakingStarWars.net because there's interesting parts as far as like Morgan Elsbeth that we saw in Mandalorian season 2. Ahsoka had a little battle with her and said, "Where's your boss? Where's Grand Admiral Thrawn?" That's Morgan Elsbeth. For those that don't just like know that name off the top of their head, there was. In your story, you're saying she is to Thrawn what Ahsoka is to Ezra.
That's what it sounds like. I've heard now from at least 5.5 sources that she's in all of it, and she's the woman in Mando chapter 13 who has that cool little villa with little Thrawn robots and some weirdos, and she's like oppressing that planet. And there's like this moment in that sequence where Ahsoka explains to Mando that she like used to be part of the Imperial war machine, and Mando has a kind of a seemingly throwaway line where he's just like, it looks like she hasn't stopped. But when you watch the episode, it makes almost zero sense because there's really not anything in there that makes you go like what? I just assumed it meant like she was being oppressive to the people, and that's just kind of like what it meant. But it's like on that planet, there's like apparently factories and stuff that are making this like giant ship that I think it's a giant ship or it's a fleet. It's really murky what they're making because they didn't really make that. So it's kind of hard for me to be specific on it. But it sounds like they're making a giant ship, and it's something that could get into this place where Thrawn is. And that's like, and she's been doing this, like she's been working on this for like a long time. Now there's a couple of like logistical questions that I don't understand. Why do they have to do that? I don't know. That's like a big one. And this is something that Beth's been asking me, and I was like, that's a good question. It's like, are they building something that could bring the Seventh Fleet back? Like because he has the fleet out there. Why can't he just fly the fleet back? And so I don't know if the fleet's like really screwed up, but I know like the ship is the fleet is there. It's in the series. So not really sure.
I hate to do this because I get so pigeonholed on it, and I get focused on things, and then Rob gives me a hard time. And like you
Lord
said,
of the
he has
Rings.
to take shots every time I say it. But I just require, if Rob's going to take shots every time I say Lord of the Rings, it must have actual alcohol in it, Rob. I expect you to be completely wasted by the time you do Jason's show. None of the stuff you get in the refrigerator at the grocery store. It's got.
Did you guys check
coordinator for Rob? I did.
Did you guys check the group chat?
I will.
Yeah, in it. I tried to put a Did I fail? Oh, by the way, Bespin Bulletin has a new article on a side note about Andor with some pictures that we might want to look at today's episode too.
They were posted to the Twitter account of Andor Leaks, and you see Perrin and Mon Mothma in Andor season 2 on Chandrila.
Okay, so I want to get to Mando in just a moment, but so let's get through Ahsoka first, and we'll tie that into the Mando discussion because the other story that Jason had was about Mon Mothma being in it, and so that parries really well with Bespin's new article. I wanted to bring this up because I haven't heard any discussion about it yet, Jason. Where you mentioned the former Jedi named Baylan, and Baylan and Shin are apprentices or they're associates of Morgan Elsbeth.
Yeah, so at first I thought that Baylan was out in that place with Thrawn the whole entire time, and it turns out that that he and his apprentice Shin are in the core worlds with Morgan Elsbeth, and they actually go with her out into that area to find Thrawn.
So I've got several questions.
Yeah,
several questions come from
me too. I'm not even kidding. It's true.
Right. So one of the complaints some of us original trilogy folks have is that there was once a story that Luke Skywalker would be the only Jedi that exists in the universe.
Well, I can stop you right there with these guys. These guys might call themselves, I don't know what they call themselves, but they have red lightsabers.
Well, I know. Calm down.
They're definitely not.
Are they going to be as bad as the Inquisitors in Kenobi?
I don't know. I have no. I would. Yeah, I'm just gonna say yeah.
But so the thing is, we understood at the time there was Luke Skywalker and there was Darth Vader, Anakin. That was it, right? Yet then you had Force Ghost Obi-Wan and Yoda.
What is Yoda?
Hung up the saber.
Star Wars Wikipedia. He knows everybody who's alive. He knows everything.
I know where Santa's going with this, and my personal response, and I put this on Twitter. This is gonna get people upset. I know, but I don't consider anything after after Rise of Skywalker. I would say so. 1 to 9 in my head is like that is Star Wars. That's the definitive Star Wars. And all the shows are just cool side stories that may or may not exist in that kind of space. But I don't hold them in the same esteem, so they can do whatever they want with those shows. It doesn't, for me, affect what the real Star Wars story is.
Well, and the way I feel about it, so I'm familiar with the argument, right? I'm familiar, when I was a kid, that's all that existed. That was it. Well, now there's Ahsoka, and there's out in the netherworld, there's out here Ezra Bridger, and then we've got Baylan and Shin, and we've got you could keep going, right? There's the list of Force users, the list of Padawan, Jedi, whatever that survived through the original trilogy era is a growing population of people, of beings. Not all of them are human. So it's just something that, as an original trilogy guy who grew up that way and had this original thought, the ground shifts on us, even as it did during the original trilogy. And for my friends who are like, they're ruining that line from the original trilogy, when Last of the Jedi, they're ruining it. Well,
But he
welcome
literally
to the
says,
party.
no, there's another like 2 weeks before. So it's like,
Yeah.
whatever.
Exactly. And it's not like George Lucas didn't change his mind. And it wasn't like George Lucas wasn't going to do the same thing, right?
Yeah, before Lucas left, he ended up saying like, "Oh, there's about 100. There's about 100 Jedi left out there after Order
Right.
66."
So he was constantly shifting the sand on us, right? Like, oh, Anakin killed your dad. Well, sort of, from a certain point of
But
view.
Santa,
right?
this argument is trying to assume these shows fit into the timeline. Two things can be true at once. You can have the movies, the saga itself, be a definitive canon, and then you can have these what if shows like Mando and other things, and they kind of, to me, are just like stories that maybe could have happened, but I don't see them as the definitive canon.
But they can be too.
But they are
They
to
can
the
be
people
too.
who own it.
If you want them to be, they can be. But for
Yeah.
me, I can have both things be true at once.
And I'm fine with the folks who want to say that there's George Lucas Star Wars and then there's other Star Wars. I'm fine with that too. And it's just, for me, I try to fit all of it in together. And I'm just saying, like, for my friends who are in this mindset, like they're ruining it. I'm like, well, but George kind of did this, and I'm okay with them doing the same thing he did and adapting it as we go forward. Fine, we've got 2 more now. Add them to the list. We've got Balin and Shin, who are hanging out during the presumably throughout the original trilogy era. We had no sign or no hint of them during the original trilogy until now. All of a sudden, boom!
We only have one guy who would consider himself a Jedi who's alive at that time, and that's Ezra. But he's in
But these guys are not there.
Star Wars Timbuktu.
What about Cal Kestis, Jason?
Right.
He's not. We don't know if he's alive when Luke Skywalker's running around at that point.
True, but Ahsoka, all right,
she's not a Jedi. She quit.
I know. I'm just saying, like, these guys are out there doing.
But I mean, if we're gonna split hairs, we're gonna. It's like he didn't say the last of the Force users will you be. He said the last of the Jedi. He's like, I'm the Jedi. I'm the one who says who's the Jedi. And you're the last one.
As Santa said, Star Wars Once Upon a Time was a simple story. Now you have to have seen every cartoon and every book to even understand half of it.
Well, and Mando,
you don't have to,
story, right?
It's just if you want
kind
to.
Of do.
If we want to go that route, and I just saw
a
video that kind of went into this kind of space. Like Mando season 1 was a simple story of a space western and dad and kid. Now they're adding like in-universe kind of things where we get the whole episode, what's going on Coruscant, and their world building. The universe is getting bigger, and we're trying to establish other timeline things that are going on so that we can tie all this stuff together. Now it's getting more complex, and you will need to have seen this episode in Mandalorian to understand what's going on in Ahsoka, or you may need to have seen this thing in Boba Fett to understand what's going on in Mandalorian. And Meg's right, like it's getting less simple, right? Less like straightforward, and to get full context of it, more and more people are asking folks like us, what's going on? I don't understand. What is this? Oh, why? It's just confusing. And I'm okay with it.
People, well, yeah, it always made me laugh about like the prequels, because that's like the main theme is change. That's one of the main themes, and like, not being able and going with it, not being able to stop it and that kind of stuff. And it's like, yeah, if Star Wars is going to be a living, like the Constitution, is it a living document? Well, yeah, actually this one is. They're changing it all the time, and they're still writing it. So we can look at it from the past tense, in which case every single thing that ever happens like befuddles you, because it's like, what? You know what I mean? But or is it a living thing? And it's like, well, yeah, it is a living thing, because they're still making it.
But they've got to, if they're going to continue to move like you're saying, if they're going to continue to move the story forward, how long can they stay with just a simple, story and continue to tell stories that are interconnected? And there are fans.
We will be dead before that's done.
But the
Well,
thing
I'm
is,
just
it's not the fact. It's not the fact that Star Wars is changing. It's not the fact that it's different. It's the fact that it lacks heart. There are so many better things than Star Wars to watch
I
that your
don't agree
average
with you.
consumer who's a casual fan. I mean, Star Wars is pretty subpar for its own genre these
I
days.
don't,
I
I
don't
don't
They
know
think
don't
about
make it
that,
like they
Meg.
used to. There's no anthropological, cultural message to any of Star Wars like there used to be.
That what I would say that what you're talking about came with time and
Yeah.
the interpretation of it. People love Star Wars going, wow, that was a big movie. Nothing's as big as that. That was like Jaws times 2. And then after that, it became this thing where it had cultures and stuff, culture attached to it.
Do you
And
guys
I
do you
don't
guys
think
honestly think Star
Mhm.
Wars is what it used to be? I honestly.
I actually having lived through all of it now, for the most part, yeah, actually, I think it's actually way better off than it was during the prequel era. Which
I
I love the
agree
prequels,
wholesheartedly. Like
but this isn't as bad.
Star Wars is in a better place today than it
Yeah.
was 5 years after the prequels.
It's better than it was
100%.
5 days
100%.
after the Phantom Menace came out.
Exactly. I wholeheartedly believe that.
And I like
To my
those
core.
movies a lot. I love them.
Yeah.
But in terms of like the cognitive dissonance that continually happens whenever anybody gets a piece of new information that changes their perspective on something, it's like that right there that's always been and always will be. And in fact, it wasn't until your generation came into adulthood that people started getting on the same page as me with the prequels. So it's like what's happening right now is my kids are growing up with this Mando stuff, and they're going to think it's the bee's knees in about 15 years, and they're going to be saying what you're saying now. That's how
I
it
don't know,
goes.
Jason. There seems to be this thing where a lot of people who take this argument seem to think, well, what about the prequels? They were whatever. It's like they still had a very good story to them. Set aside the dialogue, set aside
We
the
agree,
CGI. They had a good story.
That's not what people said though when they came
No,
out.
it isn't. It isn't.
I agree, Meg. I'm with you on that, but that's not what they said.
That's not where we were 5 years after the prequels.
The
That's not
Gen
where we
Xers were all like, I'm like there's like Gen Xers, then I fall into this generation that's like the cuspers and like the Oregon Trail generation, and then right after that comes like millennials, like a little bit after that, and the Y and millennials, and it's like I'm in this weird place where I was with them and I was with them. I was with
Okay,
both
but
groups.
Are we talking about the
Mhm.
fandom or the stories? I'm talking about the stories. Regardless of what fans would have said, I don't think Star Wars is hitting the mark that it even did with the sequel trilogy. And I said this on
Right.
your stream, like I definitely think the sequels have aged incredibly well, because with all of their writing, you can say what you want about Rise of Skywalker being rushed. It seems like those stories were still good stories in comparison to things like Kenobi and Boba Fett.
Mhm.
But you got to say, I mean, not everything is on equal footing. Mandalorian has hit the cultural zeitgeist at least as hard as the original trilogy did. It's at least as hard. It has attracted an entire new audience that's engaged in an entirely new way that is culturally going to carry on for generations. There's no way that Grogu isn't bigger than Yoda.
I'm gonna meet you both in the middle here, and I'm gonna say like the Mando isn't done,
right?
And so they could crash it, can completely kill it, and it could fall off and be a faint memory of remember when that people were like the Gremlins, and it could also continue on and become a bigger thing. But it's one of those things where it's like literally happening now. It's like in history, you usually don't start writing about something from a historical perspective to about 25 years out. And like in this instance right here, we can't really even like it's literally happening. Like we're not even midway through the third season today. So honestly, anybody making, I think, huge cultural assumptions based off of where we're at is jumping the gun, probably.
I think Mando is fine. I honestly think Mando is fine.
Yeah.
The reason I say that is because I've loved individual episodes of season 3, but I need to give it the chance of the fact that the second half of every season so far has killed it. I loved the second half of season 1, season 2, even Book of Boba Fett with the Mando stuff was cool. So I have no problem with Mando so far, and I loved Andor. I'm even
Right.
appreciating Book of Boba Fett. But what I'm saying is, as a Star Wars fan who tends to go back and watches the original 6 films and the 9 films,
Mhm.
I see this huge gap of like quality storytelling.
Okay, but let's also like understand that we're comparing one medium to another medium in which Star
Yeah.
Wars never existed before, which is television versus film.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's something else in the sense that television can be a little more, disposable. And
Yeah.
and so if the films, for instance, were coming out and they were the exact quality of Mando, I'd be like, they're cutting corners, and I don't like that for the films,
I don't think
But
the
Yeah.
quality of the TV shows is the
Mhm.
problem. Because if you look at Mando season 1, those first 3 episodes I think were like beautifully crafted storytelling, and Santa was talking about the parallels to Paper Moon. I've never had a problem with the quality because I get what you're saying about that. It's not the cinematic stuff.
Mhm.
By comparison, it's more the way that it feels very clunky at times in the way that stories are written. And after season 2 of Mando with Boba Fett, it felt like the
I
Book
don't
of
know.
Boba Fett was good with individual parts of it, but as a story, it didn't flow. And I'm worried that's what season 3 is going to be like. That's all I'm
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah, that
Well,
like the way like for me when I'm once again totally, that's your feeling, like I'm not stepping on that, like that's how you're feeling about it. But like whenever I see these episodes of Mando season 3, I just think back to season 1 when we had those dorks in the Bill Burr episode. I like the Bill Burr episode, but that was dorky. And I think back to all of those clowns and the stupid costumes in the ATST episode. But you know what I tend to remember? Like that episode gave me Bill Burr. And then I tend to remember, oh yeah, that one chick in the episode was pretty cute, but that ATST sequence was badass. Like I remember it like in that way, but when I actually watch the episodes, I'm like, this is all kind of the same stuff that we've been getting the whole time. So it's like, yeah, I think Mando's a bit overrated personally. I really do
I,
enjoy it, but I do think it's a little bit overloved.
Let's
yeah.
let Santa talk.
there's so many things I'd like to say, but one of them is, and it's something I've been thinking about a lot, and it's a reason I changed my theme song to the song, my intro song,
Mm-hmm.
is that when we're kids watching Star Wars, we don't think of it with adult analytics, right? We're not thinking about how science works, and we're not thinking about how
Yeah.
this doesn't tie into this other thing. We just absorb it as with a child's kind of enthusiasm, and that starts to happen to you as you age. If you listen to the entire lyrics of that entire song, it starts off with the guy's in a very bad place with Christmas and all the lies he was told, all of the nonsense of it, that it's just a terrible thing that happened through his childhood when he looks back and thinks about where he is. And then he realizes, wait, I was actually really happy when I was a kid. And I just have to go back to being a kid again, and I can enjoy Christmas again. And I think the exact same thing happens to us. And it happened to me with Star Wars and the prequels and everything Meg's saying about like the story's clunky. The prequels to me were a clunky story. It was a terrible story. They did a terrible job of making me relate to a character that I'm supposed to care about. I didn't care a lick about Anakin Skywalker. I didn't care that he fell. I felt no romantic kind of connection between him and Padme. Felt like it was a forced kind of thing, and that there was no chemistry there. It was a terrible execution of
Sounds like they needed an intimacy
Right.
coordinator to me.
Yeah, no kidding. But like the whole thing just didn't connect with me in a bad way. And coming out of it, Star Wars was dead. Star Wars was dead. And it was like, okay, there's nothing going on in that space. It's gone. And I could just go back to my memory back when I was a kid of the original trilogy, and I've got that. And I think that's happening to people today who grew up with the prequels as kids, and they absorbed it as kids, and it filled their fantasy and their imaginations as kids. And now they're coming out as adults and seeing new content come in, and it's not connecting to them the way that it did when they were kids. The same thing happened to me. And so then I had to go back and look at the prequels as a kid and say, okay, I see what happened. And now as I consume Star Wars, I do the same. I don't attach my adult analytics to it. I'm a computer programmer, right? I have to do that, but I just don't look at it that way anymore. And to me, these stories that they're telling are going to age extremely well. The Mandalorian, Boba Fett, Kenobi, they're going to age extremely well with kids moving forward. And Kindle, I hear you. You're saying I'm living in a vacuum. I spend an inordinate amount of time trying to understand the criticisms, and I'm very aware of them. It's just I have a different perspective on how they're being consumed by other audiences, not me.
But how does Mando grow its viewership and then fall off out of the zeitgeist?
Let's wait. Let's wait.
I do want to say something though to Santa's points. I think you were extremely eloquent with what you said, Santa. You worded things in a very insightful way, because a lot of people who have your opinion often don't put it so, properly, because I know you don't like the prequels as much as the sequels, and I'm reversed. I love the prequels, and I've come to appreciate the sequels. I'm not going to lie to you. I do think, though, that Kenobi won't age well, personally, just from my standpoint, because it'll be like me with the original trilogy. I discovered it when I was a kid, and people will discover the prequels, like younger generations, and I feel like they'll see Kenobi and those kind of shows and feel maybe a disconnect, even if it has its moments. I think the Obi-Wan and Leia stuff was really powerful, but I saw what Dominic said in the comments, and I agree with him that somehow the Bad Batch over the last couple of weeks has actually been outdoing Mando.
And that's why I say let's just wait, right? Let's see where we are. And Meg, as you or Jason, like the second half of each season brought more heat than the first half. And at the end of the season, the hype was extremely high. Let's see how this season ends, and let's wait until we get more statistics on how it is actually performing. I think that there's going to be some reversal of narrative when people say, oh, actually, the viewership of Mando 3 is higher than anything else. And there's just going to be some convenient amnesia regarding the narrative that was early in the season. But let's wait. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it'll fall off
as I say,
and...
Santa, I think Mando's been great. It just needs connective tissue, I think.
Yeah. And I look, I'm aware of it, and this world building that's going on does complicate things. It does make it less of a just like straightforward story when you spend a lot of time having to interconnect series together. And when you're in the middle of a series saying, wait, what happened? Well, you had to watch this other stuff.
It's like the saying, like the forest for the trees, right? That's where we're at with this. When you get down to it, like we had everybody's world building this and world building that, but it's like you're gonna have like what 8, 16, like 24 episodes of this story this year in totality. It's that 150 minutes out of that many hours of television. It's like, come on, guys. I mean, exactly. Have a little bit of patience, I say. But we'll see if when all is said and done, it all comes out, people still feel that way, then hey, it didn't work.
Right. So let me go ahead.
Sorry. Jason mentioned Mon Mothma appearing in Mando 3. Yeah. And I think I can reveal which episode.
Okay.
Which episode is it, Meg? Tell us now. No aggressive negotiations, bro. Aggressive negotiations.
Hold on to that cliffhanger for just
with the candy cane.
1 minute. Hold on to the cliffhanger. Meg's going to tell us when she has deduced that in just one moment. Because I want to wrap up this story of Ahsoka real quick. Right?
It's your show, bro.
We're bouncing too much between just staying on a course. And so it gets a little tough, much like watching The Mandalorian and wondering what happened in that other episode. What are we talking about? Ahsoka. Not only did you reveal like, hey, these folks, Balin and Shin, they're hanging out in this in this space, right? In the Mandoverse space during this era. They've got red lightsabers, and they're aligned with Morgan Elsbeth. Uh, they're going to go find Thrawn, which means Thrawn.
Thrawn Burgundy.
Reading the rest of your story, Thrawn is not in the Mandoverse universe at this time, where we are right now watching Mandalorian season 3. He's not here. So
no, he's coming. I think the first 4 episodes take place during Mandalorian season 2.
Yeah.
And then we have somewhat of a time jump in between the episode 1 through 4 and 5 through 8. And there's a little bit of time in between there. And then it sounds like it's not completely like clear how that's going to go 100%, but it sounds like we are going to have the show either go past Mando 3 or right up into Mando 3.
Okay. So the idea that Thrawn is pulling strings in the Mandoverse right now doesn't align to where Thrawn is right now, or the amount of communication that's going on between Thrawn and Morgan Elsbeth.
Right.
Like they're not on the conference call every Monday saying, "What are we doing this week?"
No.
Right? They're not doing it. Morgan's looking for Thrawn, just as you wrote, just as Ahsoka's looking for Ezra. They haven't found him yet. Morgan may have an idea where he is, thus she's building these ships to get there. And there may be some complexity, but we'll have to see how that plays itself out.
Right.
Jason.
Right.
Jason's
My laptop isn't feeding my power to my computer, so I have to take my camera down and change the ports and hope it works. Sorry.
Okay. Anything else before we move off of Ahsoka
just that they end up in a place I think called Nodia, or with Nodians and stuff like that, and just some other weird stuff in there. But yeah, that's the gist of it.
That's the gist of it. So as we're talking about the second half of Mandalorian season 3, and we're gonna get there in just a moment, and we're going to talk about how Mon Mothma may actually be in Mandalorian season 3, and Meg's deduction of where we may see her, in which specific episode we may see her. It bears in mind to say, maybe keep Thrawn out of your predictions for Mandalorian season 3. His involvement in the story in the next 4 episodes.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
I would say so. I would say I think those TIE fighters are from Imperial Warlords that we saw.
Yeah.
But and they could be from Morgan Elsbeth.
Yeah.
Would be the better guess than Thrawn.
There you go.
Not that it is.
We do have these images from Bespin, and I'm still holding on to Meg's deduction. But let's take a look at this for 1 second. I'm trying to tease it out just a little bit. We have Andor's filming and production in Valencia, Spain. We see some folks here, right? Some pictures that have leaked. And I haven't read the article yet, but we're going along, and I don't want to slow down too much on this. We got some green screen action going on here. Some familiar logos, right? So certainly we're going to be building out the space around here to look a little bit different than it does, just as they did before, right? And look, there's Mon Mothma.
What's up, baby?
Ding, ding, ding. That looks just like her. That would be her, right? So probably, really good, right? So we see her involved in Andor season 2. That's no surprise, I think, to anybody that she's going to be in there. Again, we see the green screens on these mechanisms where they can move them to get in the background. And there you go. There we go. Over the weekend, fans began speculating Darth Vader would be present during the second season of Andor, and Vader was at the City of Arts and Science. It began when a Twitter user captured a video of a dark figure with what appeared to be a cape and filming a scene from a fair distance. It wasn't long before Eagle Eyes fans realized the figure was actually Luthen Rail, not and not Vader, right? And then you see Mothma's in the video, but she's there, right? So there's a very blurry picture that this blur here is Mon Mothma, and this blur over here is
Darth Vader.
supposed to be Luthen. So there you go. So there's the Andor. The pictures that have reached.
I thought this was going to be the images leaked today. There is some of what do you call it?
Ahsoka.
Ignore me.
I don't know.
No, but Meg, you have a prediction when we're going to see Mon Mothma in Andor or in Mandalorian season 3. Now this rumor's been about, and we saw that Jason did a story on it, kind of confirming, right, that Mon Mothma is going to
literally confirming it. Yeah, that's what I've heard multiple times now.
Confirming it.
Yes.
So Mon Mothma in season 3. Meg, what is your deduction? How do you deduce?
So I spoke to Paul Sun-Hyun Lee, who plays Carson Teva, and I remember asking him a question about when he shows up in season 3. And he had already seen my theory video about Mon Mothma showing up. And he said, well, it's a very good guess, but I can't tell you for sure. And then he said he had more screen time in season 3. And it turns out the only director he worked with was Rick Famuyiwa, which is the last 2 episodes and the first episode. And because he wasn't in chapter 17, the deduction is Mon Mothma and therefore Carson Teva appear in the final 2 episodes.
But I'm also not saying that the Carson Teva thing and Mon Mothma are together. But
they must
just be clear. Well, that's you say that. I'm not saying that. I don't have any. Mm-hmm. I don't have the evidence for that. So I'm not saying that. Just to be clear.
That's a decent amount of fan math there, right? It's not a hard equation to fill out. 1 plus X equals 3.
But there's also variables here, and
pretty easy to figure out what X is. So right, I understand. What
every time fans do fan math, they're wrong. So I'm not, myself included. I mean, you've seen my predictions on your forums. So it's like so. What I'm just being clear that I don't know for sure that Carson is with Mon Mothma.
We know that when he's when he's speaking in the trailer.
Yeah,
he's not speaking to who it looks like he's speaking to in the trailer, right?
Yeah,
and he told us that specific. Paul said that, right, Meg?
Yes, and remember that the Rebel fleet has just been decommissioned, and the Outer Rim patrol squads, such as Carson Teva, would be directly answering to Mon Mothma at this time. So there's also the Aftermath connection to bear in mind.
Yes.
So do you have any title? What do you think it's to be called? The Outer Rim Job?
One?
Like maybe it'll be called the Outer Rim Job. Like that's my prediction for the title. That's my. If you guys have any predictions for the title.
Oh my goodness!
Sometimes people on 4chan guess the titles. So.
Do you guys know if May Dean is alive at this time, or is he dead?
Yeah. Oh no, he's alive. He's alive.
Because I imagine people like him would be obscure but good cameos.
With that hair piece.
They'd obviously get a younger actor, but
so if you were to, I like Meg's fan math. I think it,
and I agree with it. I agree with Meg's fan math. For the record, to be clear, like I agree. That's my assumption. Like in my featured image, I put him with Mon Mothma for that reason, but I also don't know.
Oh look, there we go. Bespin for fan math. Book of Boba writer, who is also on Mando too, is Mando season 3, episode 3. Therefore, Boba's in episode 3. Right. I get what
that's weak fan math though, because Noah Clora, I think his name is, has more than just that. I don't think he's. I don't think you instantly make the connection to Boba Fett because he wrote on the show. Right. Whereas Carson Teva in the story is literally part of the New Republic.
Right. There's a couple
and that's all we have from the trailer to suggest Mon Mothma.
And I can't let this stand. It's Maydeen with an M. Have some respect. He was
Rob.
He was a leader in the Battle of Endor that did just as much as Admiral Akbar, if not more.
So I like it because we had an episode on Coruscant before, right? And where is that story going? Where does it tie back in? If it ties back into the final 2 episodes, and it doesn't, we don't have to wait until Ahsoka episode 3 to find out, to connect back to it or something.
It might be that way, though. This might be part of the actual, like, sort of meta narrative of all of these shows together, and how it took in the general world building from Rangers of the New Republic and spread it around.
Yeah, but also if we get back to Mon Mothma in Mandalorian season 3, which you've confirmed she is in it, it would make sense that we go back to Coruscant and Mon Mothma's on Coruscant. She doesn't have to be, but it would make sense that she would be.
Yeah,
and that Carson Teva very well could be talking to her. Doesn't have to be, but very well could be. Right. So to me, it kind of it resonates for me a little bit. And if I'm talking about predictions for Mandalorian season 3, see what I'm doing here? I'm trying to get us back to the subject. We're talking about predictions for Mandalorian season 3, tonight's episode. Where would you reckon we're going to go? I don't think it's the Mon Mothma episode yet, although it could be wrong. What do you think?
It's a Bo-Katan episode. Katie Sackhoff already said this is her favorite of the entire season.
Meg, I love you. Thank you for that. And I want to bring up this comment here.
Can I just say one more thing about Mando just before we move on? Someone on Reddit brought this up and it got me thinking. Have you guys noticed that they really want us to think about the Phantom Menace in this season, between the N1 Starfighter, between Ahmed Best, right? Between Bo-Katan mentioning her dad, who was alive around the time Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan were on Mandalore. There's so many references and connections to the Phantom Menace. And ironically, Palpatine at this stage, in a way, is the Phantom Menace again. He is the Phantom Threat of coming back.
I love it.
And you also see Darth Maul's face in the Armorer's waters when she puts her thing in the recap of episode 3. If you look closely, you see something very similar to Maul's face in the water.
Really?
Yeah.
I need to see that. I've not seen that. But I wanted to bring up this article here, or this quote from Dawn. It was an interview with Joseph Campbell when being interviewed by Joan Marler. And I think this, you mentioned how tonight's episode very well could be a Bo-Katan episode. It says, she reiterates this quote: whenever a Knight of the Grail, I think of that as being Bo-Katan for the purpose of this discussion.
Or Indiana Jones in The Last Crusade.
Whenever a Knight of the Grail tried to follow a path made by someone else, he went altogether astray. When there is a way, right? This is the way. When there is a way or path, it is someone else's footsteps. Each of us has to find his own way, or her, right? Her own way. And this is what gives our Occidental world its initiative and creative quality. No one can give you a mythology like a mythosaur, right? The images that mean something to you, you'll find in your dreams, in your visions, in your actions, and you'll find out what they are after you've passed them. This seems to be Bo-Katan's journey. I think Dawn, a fantastic job of highlighting that quote, because it ties perfectly into Bo-Katan's where she's headed in this season, what Jason's already told us about where she's going to end. And she's already tried the journey with the Darksaber leading, right? She's already heard the tales of the mythosaur that she thought was myth. And now she's having to find these myths for herself. She's having to make this journey herself. I think it's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, in terms of what it's laying out is it's kind of always relating to like the third act part of the hero's journey, and that's essentially where the powers that be. The evil side wants one thing, the good side wants one thing, but the hero needs to sort of take their own world experience and bring it into play. Like, I wasn't joking when I said Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. He's like literally doing the Grail quest at the end. He's literally having to follow in the footsteps, to spell Jehovah correctly, of his predecessors. But then at the very end, he doesn't end up being the old knight who's stuck in that place for eternity until the next night comes. He ends up choosing to love his father and to leave with his dad. Like, so they atone in that moment, and that's where he decides, you know what, this is my dad's quest, that's the knight's quest. I'm Indiana Jones, and you know what, my quest was, I just wanted the approval and love of my dad, and I got it, so I could go. And like that's what happens like in that story, which I think everybody knows that film probably. So it's like that's the clearest, like, I think, example to, like, you know, teach from for that one. And if anybody doesn't know, Occidental just means a Western. Sometimes that's one of those academic words that people use to be pretentious and stupid. But it just means Western, us,
like,
you know,
like titular.
Like titular, penultimate. Just say next to last, you douche. But yeah, that's where I fall on that stuff, you know.
But no, I think it's absolutely brilliant. And Dawn, thank you so much for the quote. And if tonight's episode is going to be a Bo-Katan episode, is it also the one where we revisit Navarro with the pirates, or is that you think we got to wait for that? What do you think, Meg?
It has to be, right, Meg?
I'm not too sure. It has to be. I think the final few episodes are really gonna do the Pershing stuff, or, you know, the remnant stuff. So possibly.
Yeah, we have.
I do want to send you the picture I'm referring to, by the way, Santa, so you can see what I'm talking about.
Thank you so much, Meg.
So you can put it on screen, because I don't think people believe me.
I'm watching. I'm watching for it. So as soon as I get it, I would do that.
There you go.
Oh, look what we have. Let me show this on screen here.
Wait, what is this?
Maul's face.
I see there's an eye here, the red.
And on the right.
Black. You see that? Yeah, and there's an eye there.
That's
right?
pareidolia. That's pareidolia.
Do you think so?
I do. Yeah. I mean, I heard people seeing Grogu's silhouette in the mythosaur as well.
I don't know. I see it. It's really, really clear with the red and the black stripes going around.
If he fell into that stuff that the Toxic Avenger fell into, maybe.
I don't know.
Look at the eye. One eye's all big, the other eye's all small.
I'm siding with Meg on this one. You're dumb.
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah,
because Jason, I don't think they could literally put Maul's face in it, but it's as close as it gets.
And the armor does have the Mandalorian kind of design to it. It would make sense that when she's testing the waters, that it would somehow like give a little bit of a nod to that, right? So I love it. I love it. Even if it is just kind of fan servicey and they put it in there as I
want to do mushrooms with you guys. You guys are going to see the fun stuff.
Look, I fight with Meg. I'll fight with you too. I don't mind. It's okay.
I'll be there for you. Sorry.
All right. Try again. We're back. So the what I was going to say is that we've got to bring in our bad guy for the season, right? We've already dropped a hint that he's out there, but when does he come in? When are we going to get the Moff Gideon is the big bad, the big threat, and lead into some sort of climactic ending that ties the season together?
I say 6, 7, 8. I think it's going to be a 6, 7, 8 kind of thing. I wouldn't be surprised if in like 6 we kind of get something about him. More substantial, and then 7 and 8 is like the end movie, and that's where he's the prominent bad guy. That's how I think this is going to go.
Gotcha.
You guys are forgetting something massive.
Okay.
In my interview with Paul, he said that if you're a Star Wars Rebels fan, There's a big moment coming up in season 3 of Mando, and because he was in the last 2, I think we're getting a post-credit scene. I'm not going to lie to you.
Yeah.
Nice. And that could be tie into Thrawn, a post-credit scene. That could happen. I don't expect him to show up in the season before that, though. So for our predictions for tonight, I am personally leaning into the Navarro pirate fight.
Yeah, me too.
Meg?
Yeah,
Yep.
I'd agree with that.
Excellent. I want to get to the Bad Batch and talk about the season finale that's tonight. 2-parter, right? 2-episode finale. And we have some photos that were published by Star Wars on Star Wars Instagram that then they took down. They're like, oh, no, we shouldn't have done that.
Did they put filters on them? Did they put a bunch of filters?
No, they didn't.
I'm kidding.
I'm going to sneeze, I think. Let me bring up these photos, and we don't know which is which. So heads up, anybody that doesn't want spoilers. We have photos that were up and then they were taken down. So this next part can be very spoilery for you if you don't want to know anything going in. With the next episode is titled. We know the title is titled "The Summit." In last week, we learned that Dr. Hemlock needs to come and present his findings at the summit, right? So
Dr. Douchecock.
Dr. Hemorrhoid.
Right? And so we get this scene here. This is where the Bad Batch are hanging out.
Oh my God, it's Luke Skywalker's island, you guys. I see Luke there.
Octo. No.
I see Luke there.
What? No. So we get this island that very well could be the same planet that we see in Rogue One, right? At the end, very well could be the same. But
it's Pabu. It's Pabu, bro.
This is Pabu. Yeah,
That's Pabu, bro.
It's the island of Pabu. Is it the planet of Pabu, or is it a different planet that we may already know? That's the question. So we have Pabu. We see
Pabubies.
We see him. Oh no, we see him hanging out here, right? Omega's talking with Fee. We get another shot of Fee there, and then this is my guess, and this looks like the Havoc Marauder, maybe, or is that
I think it's parking at the summit. They're like,
I think it's
where they
parking.
valet.
I think so too. I think it's parking at the summit. I think this is where.
Could you imagine if this is Narkina 5?
Narkina 5. Maybe.
Cool.
Maybe. But we got the Bad Batch. This looks to be the same place. Right? They're landing. They're coming up with some sort of plan. Who's this dude? Wrecker, right? That's got to be Wrecker. And then I see a summit. Could we have a summit at the summit? Could it be both meaning? It's not only like a gathering.
No.
Santa, could you highlight Robert Sinclair's comment? Because something occurred to me the other day about Mamma Mia. Because it got recommended to me on my TV, so I clicked on it. And then I see Luthen Rail, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I forgot Stellan Skarsgård was in this film. And I can't unsee him as Luthen.
Oh,
so
no.
maybe there's an overlap.
My kids insist that Bohemian Rhapsody is called Mamma Mia, and they ask people to play Bohemian Rhapsody, but they call it Mamma Mia, and then they get the ABBA song and they get mad. I think it's funny.
That's great. Wait, do you think this is from the summit or from Plan 99? I don't think this is
impossible to tell.
I don't think this is where Mount.
Well, I think the summit's going to be an Imperial summit where they talk about the new Imperial technology and make the revelation. I think it's going to be the revelation of the stormtroopers. So the fact that it's just like what they're doing in this part right here, I think it's the preamble to it.
Yep, I think this is parking at the summit. This is
Do you guys think there'll be any Andor Imperials at the summit, like Partagaz?
I wish.
Yeah, no. And I think they're getting ready to try to get some knowledge, right?
I think Yularen would be the best bet considering his Clone Wars and they have the model and stuff like that. I think that would be the best the best possibility. But I think that the other people were still too new, like the show when this was in production and stuff like that. So I don't think anything had caught on or caught anybody's eye. Or wouldn't it be fun to put so and so in there? I don't think I don't think they had enough time for that yet. So, but I think Yularen would be the one.
I think they're doing some sneakery, right? They're trying to sneak in. They're kind of looking, and then they're sneaking and getting into this place, and then we end up.
How did the Instagram put this many photos out at once? What the heck?
Right? I know, it's fantastic. It's fantastic. There's some sort of
bows and arrows again. Come on,
Star Wars. And here's our buddy. There's our buddy Hemlock, right?
Yeah.
And Tarkin. So those are the spoilers that they posted on the Star Wars' Instagram. And so if I were to guess, Summit, we're going to see Tarkin, and we're going to see these photos probably all came from the Summit. I don't think any of them are from Plan 99.
Yeah.
So
I'm with you. I also don't think they were that spoilery. I don't really feel like after looking at those, I could tell you what happens.
No,
if you didn't tell me this was from the next episode, I would have said, "Oh yeah, I remember that one."
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so you're doing your predictions tonight, and I would kind of lean into these. At least that's what I have done. You're trying to compete and beat Santa. Maybe Santa's a knucklehead and he's got it all wrong. So go opposite of me. But then you'd be like Jason, and you'd just be wrong. So don't do that. But
you know what, Santa?
Yeah.
If Lucasfilm had any sense, now hear me out on this.
Oh no.
They would have given Dr. Hemlock a German accent.
Yes.
And then he would end up being the client in The Mandalorian. How cool would that be?
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant, Meg.
Yeah.
That would be great. That would be great. So I think they're going to the Summit. We're going to be some sneakery. We're going to be going there to find out what's going on, and that's where the batch is going to learn about Mount Tantus, and that's where we come into Plan 99. And Meg, I saw your video today where you mentioned Plan 99 being the final plan.
Is that like Plan B?
I think so, because they mentioned Plan 88, the Seeker, and I feel like that's going to go wrong.
Plan 88, the Seeker, I think that means somebody's searching. It's sort of like you've got somebody on your tail, right? Somebody's on your tail. That's Plan 88, right? Okay. Plan 99 is one of us has been captured. We need your help, right? We need rescue. Plan 99. And there's a difference between order and plan, right? We had Order 66. That was Palpatine's order, right? Plan 88 is not that's not the Empire's.
Order 66 is a tuna melt with extra cheese.
Maybe for you. Maybe for me it's a double quarter pounder with cheese. I don't know. But I think these plans are specific to the Bad Batch. I don't think the plans come from the Empire. But maybe I'm wrong on that too. Maybe the plans do come from the Empire, and it's part of everybody's training. If anybody heard Plan 88, like any of the clones.
Well, but Plan 99 is referring to 99, the original clone that started their squad's named after and all that stuff, right?
Well, right, and they are 99, right? That's their designation. So Plan 99 just means one of us is captured. I think plans are specific to the Bad Batch. That's what I'm trying to say. I don't think these are Imperial commands like Order 66 was.
Yeah. Right.
I don't think if anybody just heard Plan 99, they would know what that means, or Plan 88 for that matter. I think Plan 88 is simply Bad Batch speak for somebody's on your tail. You need to shake them.
Yeah.
Plan 99 is one of us is captured. We need rescued. That's my guess.
Okay.
So if we look at the two upcoming episodes, the first one being the Summit, and I think that's where these pictures came from, we get an indication that that's where they're going to go, and they're going to hear about Mount Tantus, because they're doing all the sneakery, right? And they're going to overhear Hemlock giving his report about what's going on for the Empire, blah, blah, blah. And we're like, oh, we've got to get to Mount Tantus to rescue Crosshair. He's in trouble. Let's go.
If my theory pans out, and it's like the stormtroopers are unveiled at the summit,
Yeah.
and then they bust out blowing them up, do you guys think that's cool, or is that too soon to like have stormtroopers like appear in the galaxy and then get blown up? You know what I mean? Like I wonder like is that good poetry or is that bad? You know what I mean? Does that take away like their menacing appeal of like, oh, these are the stormtroopers? They're not just like the regular army guys that we saw in Andor. Like I wonder. I don't know. I'm kind of like conflicted about the idea. I both like it and don't like it if it goes that way.
If I had to place a bet on the Bad Batch season 2 finale, I would say Pen Pershing would show up. He mentions the Kaminoan technology in Mando season 3, and that's one connection I'd be very happy to see.
Would he be a child though at that point?
Well, this is what I want to ask.
Yeah, I guess.
I saw this theory that says the woman scientist that's there with Crosshair.
Yeah, that's my cartoon girlfriend.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think she's a clone.
Well,
Yeah,
that's been
nice.
one of the things. The other thing, what if she's Pershing's mom? She's Pershing's mom. She ends up where she could have been saved by the technology, and he's continuing in the footsteps of his mom.
He dreamed of even being able to have a lab like the ones that were in the things. That to me says they're working in a podunk village compared to that stuff. Like that's the dream. He dreams of a lab like that. They didn't have it, so I don't think it would work.
I think it could.
I'm with Santa. I love that connection.
I do too. I love it.
But then why is her last name Kerr and not Pershing?
Well, she's not married yet.
Maybe.
I don't know. Maybe that's bad fan math again. I don't know. I like it though.
I mean, maybe it's Darth Maul in the water. I don't know. I'm just saying. I don't think so.
Look, you guys, this is a lot of fun to argue with you guys and duke it out. I love that we're friends, and I appreciate your time hanging out with me because we're all knuckleheads at the end of the day. We all come up with our own theories that are just as bad as anybody else's, and we just love talking about Star Wars, and I love hanging out with you guys. You're my friends, and I above all else, I'm thankful for that. So,
Same.
Thank you, Santa. And just know that I'll be there for you when the rain starts to fall. And
yes.
Even when life tells you, even when you think that life isn't going to be this way.
Fine. You know what? Tonight I'll be coming in there tonight for you guys. All right. If that makes you happy. I'll
Megan, I love you so much. I can't. Jason, not as much.
That's fair. I would think that would be weird.
Hey, Mike Porter dad joke. Why was the doctor so good at cloning? This goes right off of our last discussion. Why was the doctor so good at cloning?
Why?
Because he was always good at pushing the right buttons.
You did it again. You did it again.
Oh my goodness.
Classic Mike Porter.
It's fantastic. Yeah. Has Meg been rewatching Friends? Again, we get demonetized if she played it again, but she played an excellent acoustic version of
she could do it. It won't get caught. It's not the Rembrandts. Is that what they're called? Did they really call themselves the Rembrandts?
Yeah,
how pretentious is that? Come on.
Do you want to know why I've got Friends on the brain? I had a dream I was in Friends, but for some reason Ross didn't like me. Like he just kept ignoring me. It was just the weirdest dream because I haven't watched Friends in a while. So
Meg, have you ever seen that video where they took the Ross scenes and removed the laugh tracks?
Yeah, it's creepy.
It's so funny. That's my friends. That's what I see when I watch the show.
Because most of the Ross scenes are him pulling faces and not actually talking.
Yeah. Well, or he just says something and goes, and you're like, what is this guy's problem? Yeah, I love it. Watch it if you guys haven't seen it. Look it up. It's really funny.
I love it.
I just realized I should have given myself the name Regina Phalange. Am I too much of a Friends fan that went over your heads?
I don't know what you're talking about right now.
It's Phoebe's alter ego name. It's like
Okay. No, I know what you mean. I just don't remember it, but I know exactly what you mean. She had that alter ego name. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like Kelly Bundy.
Meg, would you mind playing us out today? We'll change our ending today. Meg's going to play us out, and I'll hit.
What am I playing?
You know what you're playing. Merry Christmas, everybody, and may the force be with you always. Bye bye.